You can turn on your audio. All right, we're about to go ahead and get started. I do want to thank all you Moors for coming in. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you are able to, please rise and face the east for the Moorish American prayer. All right? Please rise and face the east. We're going to have our heels together. Our feet are going to be in a V formation, like you're standing on a square. They're going to be at a 45-degree angle. We hold our arms up in the cactus pose, 2 fingers on the right, 5 fingers on the left, facing the east. And please repeat after me. Allah.
Allah.
The Father of the universe.
Father of the universe.
The Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My God.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night and by day.
By night
and by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy prophet.
Drew Ali. Amen.
Amen. Islam.
Islamism. Right, I want to announce that this meeting is now open, but first and foremost, we always rise. We always give the highest praise to the Most High, the creator of the universe, our Father God, Allah. We also give honors to our divine prophet, our divine prophet, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality so that we may learn to love instead of hate. We give honors also to the forerunner to the prophet, our brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, for preparing the way for purity and love. We give honors to all the sheiks, all the adepts, and all the faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish divine and national movement. We give honors to the prophet's first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh, our brother Emily Ill. A lot of people are not aware that the prophet actually established our government. He actually set up the Supreme Grand Council before he made the transition. We give honors also to our current Supreme Grand Sheikh, our brother K. Dandrigel. We give honors to the Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and honors to all the faithful Muslims on this call. Islam, Islamism. All right. Now, Brother Jackson Bey, would you please read the Divine Constitution and Bylaws?
Islam. Rise giving perfect praise to Allah and honors to the Prophet, Drew Ali. Honors to our forefathers and our foremothers. Honors to the Asiatic nations and honors to the Muslims in the temple and all over the world. Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America. Moorish Temple of America. The Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and partial of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this state government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American Prayer, Allah, the father of the universe, the father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America. Home office of Noble Drew Ali. Home office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Sunday, Muslims.
Islamism, brother. Gratitude. Brother Cole Bay, would you please read the writs of the prophet?
Islam. I rise and give honors to great God Allah. Rise, give honors to our prophet Noble Drew Ali. Rise, give honors to our forerunner Marcus Messiah Garvey. Rise, give honors to all Muslims on the tenets of the call, all Muslims on the planet. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is instructions from your prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful to your forefather divine and national creed, that you be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak comprehend it not. The end of times are drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali, and that is why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your profit. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans They do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Drew Ali. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claimed that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds, the ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finances so badly as I do at present, so I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
All right, Islamism and gratitude, brother. All right, before we go into the lessons, we do want to read the additional laws. Brother Seymour Bay, are you able to read those for us?
Islam, Grand Sheikh. First I rise, give praise to the Most High, Father God Allah. I give honors to his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, to the forerunner to the prophet, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And peace and love to all you faithful Muslims on the call. Additional laws for the Moorish American by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1, Grand Sheikhs and governors, heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the prophet Noble Drew Ali before acting upon by any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause a member to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group or members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their added meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to finance, to aid me in saving the nation. If he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands and have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school. The teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school come the guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7, all members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
All right, gratitude, brother, gratitude. Okay, Islam, I see the brother Robert shared your information in the chat. Thank you. For the brother Muntu L, please share your name, location, and your email and phone number in the chat. We take attendance at all of our meetings, and we do need you to share that. We don't keep people in if they don't participate. So we need you to share your name, your contact, and your location in the chat. All right. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we will be doing questions 31 through 40 today. For those that are completely new to this, haven't really been in a Sunday school class for the Moorish Science Temple of America, we go over our Quran questionnaire. That's this booklet you see on the screen. Okay, it's just a short booklet with 101 questions in it. We'll go over our Quran questionnaire, our divine constitution, and our Quran is divinely prepared by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. All right. These are the tools for our salvation. The Prophet actually established a nation for us. And before we even really get into this, since the first question is what is the modern name for the Moabites, it's basically given our lineage of who we are. We're going to talk a little bit about nationality, just cover civics a little bit. What is nationality? All right. Nationality is a people having a common origin, tradition, language, and are capable of forming.
Okay, I love you.
Love you too.
Forming or actually constituting a nation state. All right. You got that? That's a people having a common origin, which the Prophet established for us. What is the modern name for the Moabites? Moroccans. Where's the Moroccan Empire? Northwest of Mexico. So we have a common origin. And the expanse is vast, especially, all right, gratitude to the brother Harris Bay. I need the brother Muntu L, please, to share your name, email, phone number, and location in the chat. If you can't see the chat, you probably need to click on the screen if you're on the phone, but we will need you to share that information. All right, and so moving forward, the Prophet established this common origin and tradition language for us within our Quran in chapter 47, which, you know what? Let's bring that up on the screen. I know some of us aren't familiar with this at all.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Islam.
Okay. Islam.
Oh, is that the brother Muntu? If so, please share your information in the chat. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and bring up chapter 47 real quickly.
Would you need my email?
Yes, please.
Or what?
Yeah, just in the chat, just type your email, name, and location.
Okay.
Do you know how to bring up the chat on this? Are you on the phone?
Yeah.
Right.
I have to mess with it and see.
It should be at the bottom of your screen.
Okay.
But yeah, take your time. I just wanted to make sure you got that message. So yeah, no rush. But yes, you're gonna have to touch the screen to bring it up.
Yeah, this is my first time
Islam. All right. So with the definition of nationality, all right, that's a people having a common origin, tradition, and language. The prophet established this within our holy book. We have divine records, right, for our people. Remember now at the top pages of our holy Quran is saying, what does it say at the top of each page? Somebody tell me, what does it say at the top of each page in the Quran? Somebody open your Quran up. What does it say? So anybody? You know, on the left side, it says
Says the divine instructions.
Islam. So that's at the top of every page, the divine instructions, and then on the other side from the Holy Prophet. Okay, so we're getting divine instructions. And when we're in the later chapters, chapter 45 through 48, we're getting into our records. We're getting into divine records. All right, this actually can't be found anywhere else. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali returned this to us. And what's so special about this is that, you know, with this being our divine records, this is information that had been lost. Either it had been lost or it had been hidden. Okay, so there was some who understood who we are and they covered it up. And then there are some things that had been lost. It had almost left the planet completely. Okay, and so going into here, it just in well, verse 2, we're given a connection. Old man Cush, this is coming through Ham. Old man Cush and his family, the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. I believe Canaan was the 6th son of Ham. Don't quote me on that. Cush was one of Canaan's sons. But remember, we're talking about a people also. And so in verse 3, it says his father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem. Amexem is the first true and divine name of Africa. The dividing line, the dividing of the land between the father and the son. And then we're given the dominion of Cush, northeast, southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. Okay. And then as we go down, we're given information about the movement of our people. And it's saying in verse 6 that the Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit Northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with the Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Now, this is important. This is tied into our nationality because a nationality is a people having a common origin, tradition, and language. So this is also why you need to eventually come into the Moorish Science Temple of America, because you may not be learning this out on your own, right? And there's nothing wrong with learning this with your brothers and sisters in the temple, so that we have this common origin, tradition, and language, so that we all understand it, so that we're all on code. We all know who we are. All right. And so in verse 7, it says their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast, south, and southwest Africa across the great Atlantis, right? The Atlantic Ocean, even into the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands. Nobody was talking like this in the 1920s, and especially not in reference to the so-called Negro. You had some people who were part of like the Rosicrucian Society that were writing books just for them, where they were saying that you had the connection over here between the Olmecs and the Egyptians over in North Africa. But they weren't giving this information to us. And they weren't putting us in the picture. So the prophet brought this straight to us. If it was modern times, he went straight to the hood. He came to us with this information, this hidden or lost information, divine records. All right. He reestablished this link. This was the missing link as far as we're concerned. So their dominion extended from Northeast and Southwest Africa across the Atlantic Ocean, even into North, South, and Central America, and Mexico, and the Atlantis Islands. So he's covering the Caribbean, all of that. So this is Jamaicans, everyone, almost everybody, almost everyone, right? And then this is establishing the time period. It says before the great earthquake, which we don't know the exact time, how long ago that was. Could have been thousands of years ago. You let them tell you, they'll say it was millions and millions of years that the continent split apart slowly over time, but that doesn't even fit in with the records that ancient societies have. Right here in Central America, the Olmec people have in their own records in a book called the Truano manuscript, which was basically a scroll with hieroglyphs where they're telling about their civilization. These were the pyramid builders over here. And they talked about this cataclysm that happened. They talked about how the lands rose above the sea and a whole bunch of lands sunk under the ocean, and how people disappeared. People were separated. People perished. How they had to start over. They wrote this down. There were eyewitnesses to it. And that's how old this information is. So it was covered up. It was covered up and hidden, and the prophet came and reestablished it. It legitimately. He didn't just talk about it. He didn't just do a lecture, make a YouTube video about it. He established a community, a society, a nation to relink us to this, right? So, Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the Great Earthquake, which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean, right? Before that, the Atlantic Ocean was a river. And the pharaohs of Egypt our ancestors received permission from them, which meant that the pharaohs of Egypt had dominion over here, right? Which means that Egypt was a worldwide civilization, or at least how the prophet is using it. He's insinuating, he's alluding to a worldwide civilization, worldwide government. Okay? And so the prophet relinked us back to this. I'm going to just skip down to verse 9. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the holy land of Canaan. So he says all the inhabitants of Africa were and are the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite land or nation from the holy land of Canaan. Okay. And, it depends on how you look at this. When he's saying that the ancient name of Africa, the true and divine name was a Mexim, for all that we know, all of this was considered a Mexim as well. All right, because we were given permission from the Pharaoh to come and inhabit this land. And we had all of this, North, South, Central America, the Atlantis Islands, all of this. So the prophet reestablished that link. And that's extremely important because the nationality is a people having a common origin. They removed this from us. We were tricked out of it. As Negroes, where do we begin? They just put us somewhere in West Africa, right? We don't have a tribe. We don't have a nation, any of that. But as Moors, we're connected to all of that. All of it. And it's legitimate. Just like we have legitimate claim to this land here. And so the nationalities of the people having a common origin, tradition, and language, and capable of forming or actually constituting a nation state. So we have to have these things. So with the prophet, he gave us laws, right? We are civilized people now. We have a divine creed. Christianity, I would not speak ill or radical about Christianity, not knocking it in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but for us as a people, it hasn't, for most of us, it hasn't helped us as a collective to be independent. It's kept us in a subservient position. And there's a reason for that, because they branded us, they marked us. When you mark someone, that mark is somebody that you're preying upon. That's what con men, they call somebody that they're about to get over on a mark, right? So they marked us with the label that they created that meant slave. And it disconnected us from our heritage as the creators of civilization. All right. And so we can't take the religion that was handed to us, but we have to have a religion. We can't just say, oh, no, I'm spiritual, I don't need all that. Nope. You know why? Because the European had to get a religion so that they could become, they could take part in the family of nations. That's why they formed the Council of Nicaea. That's why they decided to make Christianity the official religion for most of the European nations that were coming up. This is how they became a part of the human family. And I'm not trying to down them, say they're not humans. I'm just saying this is how they were able to take part in commerce and trade. This is how they did it. They couldn't be savages. They couldn't just be out here just doing anything. They had to have a religious system that let the other people know that, hey, they have rules and standards. They have a way of conducting themselves. They understand that there is a creator to the universe. They know that. Now, whether they hold true to it or not is on them. But that, and with the Christianity that they gave to us, they gave it to us as subservient people. They removed us from the family of humans and then gave us something that was watered down. So it didn't work for us. So we now, as Muslims, as Moorish Americans, we have our own divine creed. Couldn't leave that out, right? And so this is extremely important. So we have to have a nationality. It ties us to our forefathers, which is why we just went over 47. The prophet reestablished this link. We descend from the creators of civilization. And even in our fallen state, we still are who our ancestors were. Now, with the Holy Quran and with the material that we're going over, everything that he left for us, the Koran questionnaire, we study this because he has the steps in there for us to pick ourselves back up so that we're not just calling ourselves Moors, but we're really still savage. We still down for whatever, right? We can't do that. We can't pretend to be Moors. We have to do it for real. So he gave us the steps to actually do this for real. The common origin, okay, that's cool, but we also need the tradition. And so he gave us that. He established that for us. And that's what enables us to claim our birthrights. So it's not just something, you can't just file paperwork. That's not going to do anything. It holds no weight. There's way more to it than that. All right. And by claiming our nationality, that puts us in compliance with the constitutional standard of law by name. And then also, nationality determines our political status in this government. And then it puts us in a position where we can base our lives on our divine creed of our forefathers, right? We have our own divine creed. Maybe in my divine creed, I can't inject something into my arm. I don't care what you're saying it is, vaccine, whatever. That stuff probably has pork in it, right? They put gelatin, they put all types of things in it. It's like, I can't go along with it, and you can't force that on me because I have my own divine creed, right? Of my forefathers, and I adhere to it. We have 5 divine conduct controlling principles, the 5 highest standards to man: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And then, of course, by abiding by this will cause us to become law-abiding citizens. And since we are capable of governing ourselves, right? Because we have conduct controlling principles, we have laws, we have standards. We are capable of governing ourselves. We don't need overseers anymore. So this was extremely important. Like, you can't leave that step out. At some point in time, eventually, the brothers and sisters out there do need to come into the Moorish Science Temple of America. Being a member is synonymous to being a citizen within our nation. Why? Because when the Prophet established the Moorish Science Temple of America, a lot of people will talk about Cook County, do Herd's Revised Statute. He established a nation because the wording of Herd's Revised Statute allows for the creation of a religious society / body politic, and a body politic is a corporation that is basically a nation state that is capable of governing itself. All right, but in actuality, that's a small part of it, because the Herd's Revised Statute doesn't give any authority or power to the Moorish Science Temple of America, because our authority and power is derived from the great Quran of Muhammad. The Prophet was just using this to announce his intent to the world lawfully, so that it could be recognized by all nations, including the United States of America and all the other nations of the world. Right? He took that step, and then he also moved as a head of state. He went to Cuba to the Pan American Conference. He went to Mexico. He went to Canada. And when he went, he moved as a head of state. He had governors and secretary of state. People like this were coming to him, coming to some of his meetings, or he was having meetings with them. These are the type of people he was moving with. And as I said, he was moving as a head of state. So he was recognized as the leader, right, for the Moorish Americans, for our nation. All right. And at that time, too, the Moors had their own economy. They had their own businesses. So they were capable of governing and self-sustaining themselves. So he set the blueprint up for us. And now our people are starting to get ready. We're starting to come to this without anyone teaching us this. We're just waking up, getting online, because it's time. All right, everything happens right on time. Law governs all events, right? So everything is right on time. And one of the things that, we have to teach our members is the necessity of being active and participating in the political affairs of our nation. We have to teach how the government is established, and our aims and objects and our goals, right? So we have to be able to work together as a unit. So eventually, the Moors need to come in, learn what this means, move together as a collective. Of course, when you join, you are officially proclaiming your nationality, and that's great. And that's cool, but you also have to come into the fold all the way. Actually take on your divine creed. Actually move as a Moorish American. And then, as it says in our Constitution, participate in our uplifting acts. Because as we move as a collective, this is how we get things done. Right? As a unit. It's not good enough with people just trying to do this on their own here and there. No, we move as a unit. Okay, and so I did just want to cover that real quickly. If anybody has any more questions, though, or any questions at all, feel free to ask them once we go over the questionnaire. We're just going over 10 questions, 31 through 40. After that, I will open the floor to questions. I do need the brother Muntu. I do need you to go ahead and share your information in the chat. All right. So hopefully you're able to figure that out. But we're about to get started. Question 31. What is the modern name for Moabites? And then the answer is Moroccans. Okay. And so we're looking at this. The Prophet is not talking about Morocco, the modern nation state. He's talking about in a non-restrictive sense, right? The ancient Moroccan kingdom was expansive. Okay, but I'll get to that in a second. This is a critical connection, though, linking us back to the past, linking us in with the ancient Moabites, right? The indigenous Moroccans, they're all one and the same people. And we do have some scholars like the professor Jose Pimenta Bay. He wrote a great book called Othello's Children in the New World. There's also another book, well, Golden Age of the Moor really concentrates on Moors in North Africa, but Othello's Children in the New World does a great job, has tons of resources in there connecting us, the people in the Americas, to our heritage as the ancient Moabites. And this is actually something that's known, even though it's covered up. You're not going to see it mentioned, right? But this is a legacy, right? And when the prophet mentions that our ancestors were the creators of civilization, and that we are who they are, by connecting us as Moors, this is the missing link. Like some of the names that you could throw out there that we're connected to, like Atlantis and Lemuria, that stuff might sound crazy or sound like it's out there, but this is what connects us to that, because these are the people who established all of the priesthoods, all of the mystery schools, the ancient mystery schools. These are the keepers of the wisdom. This is what's actually written about by others like one of our departed scholars, George G.M. James, who was a professor. And he wrote about the legacy of the Moors. And actually in Stolen Legacy, he makes the connection to the Moors as the keepers of antiquity and of the mystery schools from ancient Egypt, right? There would be no Egypt if you didn't have the Moors. And they kept all of that wisdom going. Where did that wisdom come from? It came from something that even predated Egypt, which is getting into the ancient worldwide civilization, where you actually had a civilization with one language, that a civilization that predated what's talked about in chapter 47, where you have the breakup where the Atlantic Ocean is created, where the continents split apart. The prophet reconnected us to that. And it's powerful. And that's also why we see people wearing fezzes over here carved in stone. Olmecs wearing fezzes and turbans, literally. And it's carved in stone. And it's not being talked about, but it's obvious. And the next question is, where's the Moroccan Empire? And then the answer is northwest of Maxim, right? So we get into territory, right? And the seat of the Moroccan Empire was Northwest Africa. If you look at that area today, you have Mauritania there. And once again, even with that, you have a link into the ancient, or I guess you could say what's considered mythology now with Atlantis, but you have a connection to that, because in that area in Mauritania, you have the Atlas Mountains, and you have several other regions and things that have that ATL prefix in there. Atlantis, the Atlas Mountains. You have tribes of people who still speak ancient dialects. And even though they're not speaking ancient Phoenician, they're able to understand that. You have people there who are able to understand these ancient languages that aren't even spoken anymore. Why? Because they have a connection to that culture. And in these tribes, in places like Mauritania, in Northwest Africa, they have legends of great floods, cataclysms happening that split up all the people, right? And they're Moors. They're undoubtedly Moors. And most of them are dark skinned as well, right? And the prophet reconnected us to that. And then question 33, what is the modern name for a Mexim? And the answer is Africa, right? So the prophet was guided by Allah, and he's revealing knowledge to us, because we are revealers of the light, right? We're not concealers. So the prophet is revealing knowledge that's not known right? This is uncommon. And so obviously we're used to the name Africa, right? There's nothing wrong with using that name Africa. I know there's a bunch of different theories about where the term Africa came from, but the prophet is giving us divine insight into an ancient name, something that's unknown. Like I really haven't found anywhere else where that name of Mexam would be used. Okay, but we know that nothing actually ever is totally forgotten, right? There's records that are referred to as the Akashic records that aren't even physical. It's something that you have to meditate. You have to go into the soul plane or the spirit plane to access, right? But it has all of the records for humanity, for the entire planet. Okay, so even though the Europeans and no one else has these names, the prophet is returning this to us, reconnecting us to our divine heritage, right? And our indigenous terms as well. So this was the ancient name that our ancestors gave to our land over here and Africa, I would say, which is a Mexam. And then the title, what is the title given to our ruler in Morocco? Sultan. All right, so Morocco was the seat of power for the Moroccan Empire for the longest. And then all of this was held together by the authority of the Sultan. And then even in modern times, right, where the current king of Morocco, his father, either his father or his grandfather, I think his father abandoned the title of Sultan. He wound up going into exile for a couple of years because I think there was infighting within his family for the throne. And when he went into exile, he gave up the title of Sultan. So he left a Sultan and came back a king. But even in modern times, the king of Morocco is still recognized as the spiritual head for most of North and Northwest Africa, right? And even for greater Islamic, I guess you could say, kingdoms or nations, they see him as still like as the Sultan because he's seen as the spiritual head. But in the past, the Sultan was undoubtedly the head or the authority for the Moroccan Empire. And the Moroccan Empire expanded pretty much the entire north and northwest and then into West Africa, even on down into Senegal, and of course up into Europe, Spain, even into other places, other areas like the Philippines. Why? Because the Moors were traveling and trading. They were going into India. So you had it spreading all throughout Asia. And then what they don't tell us about is that you have Moors over here, right? You have Montezuma, who was an Aztec ruler, and he was referred to by the Spanish when they came into contact with him. He was referred to as the Moorish king. All right, so the seat of all of this, or the authority for all of this, would have been recognized as the Sultan. So even though you have all of these different Moorish kingdoms, they still recognize the Sultan as the authority. All right. And the prophet is reestablishing this for us, bringing this knowledge back to us, and reestablishing our traditions and customs. All right. And then 35, where did we get the name Jesus? From the East. Jesus is the Greek form of the Hebrew name Yeshua or Joshua, but they didn't have the J. So you really say Yeshua, but Joshua, Jesus, these are all the same thing. And it means Jehovah is salvation, or Jehovah saves. And actually in the tetragrammaton, which is the 4 Hebrew characters that make up the term Yahweh or God, right? Jesus is almost the exact same as that, except for like the last character. And you have Yod He, Vod He, and then you have one character that's different. And so that one character that's different is insinuating God in man. All right. And so basically that's what the name Jesus means. Okay. I'm going to 36. What does the name Jesus mean? Jesus means justice. All right. In Hebrew, that's Joshua. Same thing. And let's see, the Greek form of both of those names is the same thing that also is justice. So justice is the first principle, right? Or one of Allah's divine attributes. And it's a virtue. So this is something that characterizes Allah's nature. All right. So with that name, we just having one of Allah's virtues or Allah's nature, and that's given to us. In Allah's justice, we have his love, his forgiveness, his mercy, his grace, and his law finds expression. Justice is going to correct all things and restore balance. And then in man, right, absolute justice is manifested as moral rightness or divine righteousness. Okay? And the message that Jesus brought was one of love and truth, and you can't really realize those things without justice. So, along with love and truth, Jesus is bringing divine justice. Okay, 37, did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name? Yes, but it cannot be used by those who are slaves to sin. All right, and with that, the prophet was an Egyptian adept. He mastered, or he knew that the way that you pronounce words, there's power in it, right? Coming from an ancient Egyptian mindset, we know this. We've spoken about this before too, just how there's different Egyptian scrolls that speak about some of the, I guess you could say some of the alchemists, how they would use words to move physical objects, literally. There was one who was summoned by the king. He was supposed to chop off a prisoner's head. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. So they chopped off a goose head instead. They put the head on the other side of the room. He uttered the words, and the head comes back together to the goose, and it gets up, starts moving around, right? And this is told in the Egyptian scroll. Well, I forget what scroll it was in, but an Egyptologist will tell you that was just allegory. It was just, mythology. But they spoke about it in detail, right? Because I've read it. They're speaking about it in clear detail, speaking about things that they're actually able to do. They're giving you the person's age, name, location, and giving extreme detail on these acts taking place. And when you actually get into the adept mindset, you know that this is true. With the spoken word, it has tremendous power. You have the ability to create or destroy. So the utterance of certain names and words are energized and they're charged with force. And they can create things in the physical realm out of the invisible universe. And so you can have profound influence on the world around you. And so there are some secrets, some wisdom that can't just be given to everyone. With the Egyptian mystery school, people had to go in to study and they weren't considered adults until they were like 42 or 49, 40, maybe it was 40. The bottom line is they were to study and to prove themselves before they were given this power. All right. And that's very real. I know in this age with the internet, people just like get it. I'll just look it up, but there's some things that's not online, believe it or not. And there's some things that are going to be held because everybody's not ready. You can't be out here proud to be a savage and have this type of power. Just can't do it. And that's why I said this is not for people that are slaves to sin. Okay. And people need to know what that means, right? You have to know about the higher and lower self. You have to be working to subdue your lower self. So once you can master lower self, now you can handle this type of power. All right, Islam. 38, what is an angel? An angel is a thought of Allah manifested in human flesh. All right. And so by going off of this is letting you know that some humans are angels. In Greek, the word angelos means messenger. Right? So initially that word referred to a human messenger who was on a mission, right? Someone with the divine message for the people. And that's the type of angel that the prophet is referring to in 38. So talking about people that are messengers, people with a divine insight, divine message. All right. And an angel has a mission to carry the messages to the four corners of the world, to all the nations. And that's question 39. What are angels used for? To carry messages to all the four corners of the world. So the angels, like a prophet, the mercy of Allah is sending them with this divine insight. They're giving life-saving messages to all the four corners of the world, to all the nations. And then our prophet, what is our prophet to us? He's an angel of Allah who was sent to bring us the everlasting gospel of Allah. Right? So his duty is twofold, because not only is he bringing us in accord with Allah's law, right, which he's doing, but he's also on a mission to bring the everlasting gospel, right? But he's also bringing us in accord with the law. He's establishing the law, right? So he's a law bringer. He's a in Arabic he would be considered a rasul. The rasul is a messenger, and then the nabi is a prophet. They're bringing a warning, but the rasul is also bringing the law. They're bringing the holy book, Islam. So before we move on, does anybody have any questions about those? Anybody have any questions about those? All right. Okay. I would like to open the floor to questions in general. If anybody has any questions or anything that they want to share, feel free to speak up. I yield the floor. Okay, well, I hope everything made sense, especially just earlier explaining how you proclaim your nationality, what you need to do, The brother Muntu L, we still didn't get your information, so I need you to share that in the chat. Islam, brother.
Islam. I just wanted to hear you expound more on what makes us a nation state and how powerful that is. Just expound on that, to add to, you was talking about nationality. Just speak to us more about the nation state status and how this thing ain't just a social club. Islam.
Islam. So that's a great question. What really makes us a nation state? Like I was explaining earlier, it's not just because the prophet filed some paperwork in Cook County, Illinois, right? That's not it. Okay, so the prophet in 1926, he had a civic organization. That's what it wasn't called the Moorish Science Temple of America. It was the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. It was a civic organization. The prophet at this time had thousands of members, right? This is all tied into the nationality. He had thousands of members. They were moving as a unit. He was able to tell them to vote a certain way, and they would do it. And so they had power. They were able to move, shake and move things. People that wanted to get into office, like there was a guy who was the Secretary of State at the time. I think his name was Emerson. He wound up running for governor, and the prophet got him in. Right, he had over 3,000 Moors who was able to vote one way. He got him in, and so he was meeting with people like this, and he not coincidentally, changed the structure of the Moorish Science Temple to a religious society / body politic. Right, more than likely after meeting with Emerson and letting him know what he was going to do, and this is the move that he took later on. Right, and then that brother was a Shriner, so when he saw the prophet, he recognized him for who he said that he was, and he gave him advice. More than likely, I don't have any proof of that, but more than likely that's what happened. Okay, and so when he set up this, from a legal standpoint, a body politic, a group of people capable of governing themselves, but then he actually set these things up. He reestablished our link to our divine creed, because every nation has to have their own divine creed. They have to have their own laws, their own system of governing themselves, which he established. He established the ruling system. He established the actual government with the different seats of government, or the different bodies of government. Like you have the you have the three branches: the executive, legislative, and judicial branch. And with the judicial being like the Supreme Court would be our Supreme Grand Council, right? The executive would be the chairman of the entire Moorish Science Temple of America, which is usually going to be the Supreme Grand Sheikh and chairman. And that's the executive branch, and they will each have their own office with their own assistants that work with them. And then you would have the legislative branch, which is like the Congress, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and that would be with the grand body. Right. And so he actually set this structure up, put it in place, and had it working in order, capable of self-governing, a real society. And it wasn't just in one city. It was spread out all over the country. It even wound up spreading out to the West Coast. So you had all of these Moors who were organized and capable of governing themselves. Each temple is like a city. It's basically like it's capable of governing themselves. You have a structure within that temple with leadership. And then for the state, you should have a governor, a grand governor, assistant grand governor. And then they all report to the national government. So you have things at the local level, the state level, and at the national level. And he set all of that up, and it was running. It's up and running. And then he moved as a head of state internationally. He was recognized as a head of state. When he went to Cuba for the Pan American Conference, which No, the Pan American Conference was the precursor to, I want to say, the United Nations.
Was it the World Conference? Sheik?
Yeah, maybe. I don't quote me on that, but it was the precursor to something else that's still in existence today. All right, and we actually have the from Ancestry.com the shipping records to show him and the brother Kirkman Bay on the shipping manifest. So we know that they went to Cuba. That's not like just a oral story. So he went there, and at this conference, he was recognized as the head of state for our people. And allegedly, he was given a mandate for the land here. Okay, and you had I think the Secretary of State for the United States of America was there, and you had several other nations. This was for all the Americas, right? All of the different nations here. They all have representatives there, or their heads of state were there. So it's a big deal. And especially in light of what was going on. Economically, we had power because we were dependent on ourselves. You had several things like this occurring at the time. Like even though Jim Crow and all of these things were going on at that time, we had little pockets, places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, where we were successful, where we were doing our own thing. And so the prophet was doing this, and he also established the government. So it wasn't just a black city or a black part of town, right? We were organized. We were getting out of that thing that was created to keep us confused and disconnected. So he figured it out. He put it together. He moved as a head of state. All of these moves that he made satisfied the prerequisites for nationhood from an international law perspective. You have this thing called Bouvier's Law Dictionary where it lays all of this stuff out. So each little step that he took, there's like 7 steps. Each step that he took satisfied the prerequisites. And that's why we could say, yes, we are a nation and we're recognized worldwide. Right. And so it's not, it could have this thing. And then that's the other thing. When the prophet passed away, this could have just faded into obscurity. It just disappeared. But it didn't. It may have gone underground, but it stayed here. It was like it was incubating, like it was sleeping and waiting for when we were actually ready to get it done. We had to go through collectively different stages, right? As a collective, we had to become black. Then we had to become African American. We had to go through all the different things our people have been through over the decades to get to this point where now we're ready. And the prophet changed forms in 1928. So when he made that transition, this thing didn't die. It stayed here until we were ready to actually do it. Okay, so it's powerful because the key to our salvation has actually been here the whole time. And the way that he set it up, we can move unhindered upon. It's perfect that we have a Islamic nation state that's protected through this through the Constitution. We have a right for religious freedom. Nobody can attack that. And part of our religion is reestablishing our link to our divine heritage, who we truly are, teaching this to our people, moving now as a people, because we really have to stand on these principles. So that means we really have to change things, right? We can't just eat everything they do. We have to grow our own food. We need land. We have to do all of these things. And also, like I was reading earlier with the Egypt, the capital of the dominions of Africa. All right. When you're reading this and you're looking at the establishment of our dominions, we're actually, a lot of our land is being occupied by people, or even, there's just land out here that I don't know who owns it, right? There's a lot of land that no one lives on, but somebody European owns it for some reason, somehow, right? But according to this, right, Egypt, the capital empire of the dominions of Africa, North, South, Central America, and the Atlantis Islands belongs to who? Us. We can't get it as strangers to the land that was brought over here on slave ships. But as Moors, it's ours. It was ours before Europeans even knew how to read. We've been here that long, right? So that is a part of our divine heritage, our birthright. And we're reestablishing a link so that we can pursue those things in the future. And so that's extremely important and powerful. And then especially for people that want reparations and all these things, like we can now pursue the redress for some of the things that were done that we haven't been compensated for, or for some of the promises or treaties that were broken. Now we can look into that and see what we can do about correcting this. And now we have legitimate right to do this and to do it unhindered upon. Right? The only people who could make this take longer is us. People who, for whatever reason, they scared, they not really in, or they wishy-washy. I don't know if I really want to do this. Like I don't know how anyone could feel like that, but hey, I'm not trying to shame anybody, but I don't know how they could feel like that, to be real with you. But this is the way that we do it. This is the way that we go about correcting all of this. Right? And then you see in the picture, everybody here standing upright, right? We're standing upright. We're proud. We have something to be proud of. So we're not just down for whatever. You see the men they're wearing suits, right? You can't be out here sagging with your underwear showing, talking about I'm a Moor, I'm the creator of civilization. So like we actually have to abide by this stuff because it's not a scheme. It's not like it's some scheme we just trying to run. Man, yeah, if I can file this paperwork, I could get this and that. No, you're not going to get anything. We have to move as a collective, right? We have to actually be it for real, right? It's not a scheme, right? I'm not out here, I'm a drug addict, and I'm trying to pretend that I'm something that I'm not, right? We actually have to live the part. It's for real because you really have to pick yourself up, right? You can't scheme your way into greatness and then take these same bad habits and all this stuff into that world too. Like it's not gonna work, right? We have to pick it up for real because we have a greater purpose. We have a divine purpose. All right, and so this is reestablishing that. So from an earthly perspective, this is setting us up so that we can rule again. And then even greater than that, because what is our actual birthright? We're the lords of the plane, the manifest, and the soul plane. So even greater than all of this. All right. But from a physical perspective, yes, we can be prosperous. We can rule over ourselves. We can govern ourselves. And he gave us the vehicle to do it. And so yeah, this is extremely important. People can't leave this out. Islam.
Islam.
All right, to the brother Muntu, where are you calling from? Yeah, we still didn't get his information. All right, so yeah, before we close out, I'll just ask one more time if anybody has any questions or anything that you would like to address. Feel free to speak up.
Yeah, first of all, I rise and give respect to Allah, creator of the universe, and his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I just want to reiterate how chapter 47 of the Circle 7 Quran is like is my favorite chapter. And I just want to reiterate what you've read already, and to reinforce the question that the brother asked. In verse 6 of chapter 47, I'm gonna read it real quick. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit Northwest Africa. And this next sentence is like the most powerful, and I don't think everybody really understands the power of this. At least the unconscious Moors definitely don't. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. Now, I'm 55 years old. I did not know there was a present Moroccan Empire. I mean, I don't even know how this has been hidden from us since 1928, 1921, 1913, whatever the year was. But I mean, and we need to emphasize that over and over again. And also in where is that at? The paragraph paragraph 9. Are people claiming to be, myself included? I mean, emotionally, yeah, I love being black, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud and all that. But after knowing the truth, chapter 9, paragraph 9, according to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored attached to the human family. If I had heard that when I was 10 years old, I would have never claimed to be black, and I'd have been searching for the truth then. So the best we can do for the rest of my years on this physical plane is move in the direction of helping the youth discover who they really are. I really would have liked to know this when I was in elementary school, so to speak. I yield the floor.
Islam and gratitude, brother. And it's crazy when people really look up that word nigger and look up what that really means, where it really came from, and see it's connected to the troglodyte nigger, and then see what that is. Like, that's the missing link. And then you realize that that's the box that they put us into. Like, we're the missing link. Like, we savage. They gave us a religion. They civilized us. And so can't go along with that at all, right? And it's a spell, because it's not just a word. When we go along with it, calling ourselves nigga, it don't matter how you pronounce it, right? There's a mentality that comes along with it, and it's self-defeating, right? It's destructive, and you can see why we're still in that situation, like, as a collective. So it's really powerful, and this is really the only way out. We have to pull out of it. It's not just about throwing that word off. We have to pull out mentally. You have to make the exodus and come into your own, and we have to do it now. Islam. All right, Islam.
Islam. And also had wanted to come back and add with the brother. When we were in school, they just overshadowed it. They never told us what we were about. Like, I want to say the Ottoman Empire that lasted all the way to the 1920s. That was part of our empire that lasted all across the continent, all across the globe, pretty much.
Islam, gratitude, brother. Yeah.
Islam.
Yeah, they leaving all of that out, right? And the connections are there. You can even see the headdress and everything. And it's all over the world, because this is what links us in to the ancient worldwide civilization, which they'll tell us is just mythology, but it's real. And this is why the prophet said that our ancestors were the creators of civilization. Literally. All right. This is the tie. This is what binds you back into that. Islam. All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to share or any questions? Okay, if not, I want to announce without further ado, we're going to go into the closing of the meeting. See, Brother Seymour Bay, could you please read the divine warning?
Islam, Grand Sheikh.
Islam.
I rise again, giving praise to the Most High Father God Allah, honors to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Forerunner Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Peace and love, all your faithful Moors on the call. The divine warning by the Prophet for the nations. Citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional law of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery. I, the Prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and come back to the state of mind to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government and not under the granted privilege as has been the existence. You who doubt whether I, the Prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they're glad to see me bring you out of the darkness and into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is the free national standards and power that make a man and a nation. The wealth of all national government, gold and silver and commerce belong to the citizens alone, and without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling upon all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all the support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mind back to their own free national and divine standards, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional law of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and the South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at the time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced since 1774 declared all men equal and free And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. And then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized, prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, disease, etc. And I, the prophet, do hereby believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they have fought the Southerners for these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South, and I examined the conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives their life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet, Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism and gratitude, brother. All right. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Everyone, please rise and face the east for the closing prayer. Right, feet together, heels touching, feet at a 45-degree angle.